During the run-up to the launch of the Nikon Z8, I made tons of videos and talked about the pros and cons of this camera. Based upon all the rumors, it seemed like it was going to be a great camera. When it was released, hurriedly went to Malaysia to go pick one up. Now, even after I got there, I was a bit hesitant to turn over my beloved Sony a7R5. And yes, I said beloved because in the 6 months that I had the camera, I started to really like it. So much so I put aside the FX30 just so I can utilize the camera more. The focus breathing compensation, the advanced stability, these are some of the features that I wanted. As someone who does more video and I want to be out in the street more and does things, the A7R5 was a step above what the FX30 could do. In some cases. The FX30 has a whole other thing, and if you watch my past video, you know I still have that camera. It was difficult to give up the A7R5. I sat in a restaurant with John, compared sizes, took a couple of test shots in the restaurant, looked at them just to see what they were like. I got so used to shooting with the screen on that camera that I loved the orientation of it. It was very flexible. If I wanted to shoot video, I could just flip it up and utilize it. The image quality that came out of it when you shot photos were really, really great. Did I need 61 megapixels? No. I shot mainly 26 megapixels and it did fine. For those times when I shot in 61, yeah, great shots. So while the A7R5 was a fantastic camera, this video is not about the A7R5. It is about the Z8. You've seen the first few videos I've done with the Z8 on the street, testing out the autofocus, shooting at night, 8K. I played around with it for a bunch of different situations, and I wanted to see those areas that people had concern with, like focusing in certain situations. Because as we've heard, in Sony cameras, you just kind of set it and go. Well, not really set it, just turn it on and go. But as you know, video, that kind of works well. When it comes to the photo side, that's where the issue lies. I did some bird photos while I was in a bird park, but we didn't get an opportunity to shoot any birds in flight, so don't have any of that. But I do have some other things in flight.
They hate when you elevate. They stacking up losses, I'm handing them out, yeah, I had to go delegate. It feel like I'm floating, I'm lost in the moment, I swear I could levitate. They never believed that I would really fly, I had to go demonstrate. I had to set them straight. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. They hate when you elevate, elevate, elevate. Yeah, they hate when you elevate.
One of the things I wanted to do while testing the airplane mode was to see how well it would capture the airplane and stay in focus. But it lose tracking, as I've heard what some people say about in flight can lose tracking. So I played around with different modes to see what it could do. The standard mode where, you know, the box is all the way around, and I think it's 3D tracking. It was okay, it didn't do a good job all the time. So I transitioned over to the area modes, and it was a square box. It was okay at a distance, depends on how far the plane was. You could capture some stuff. But I had some instances where when a plane is landing and the fence is there, you would basically run into an issue where it would lose tracking. So then I changed the box from square to the rectangular one, the wide rectangle. And what I realized is the situation got a little bit better, but it looked like it performed better if I kept up with the pace of the plane as it was flying by. If it was a little bit slower in the tracking, then I would lose focus. But if I was panning at the same speed as the plane was going by, it tended to keep focus. So I will say this, all the air focus modes, they work very well. You just have to tailor the ones to work for your situation. And how do you do that? You got to test it, right? I spent a couple hours at the airport shooting planes just to test out the different modes to get shots that will work very well. And while this is not everything that I took, it would take way too much time to go through all that. I wanted to narrow it down to the ones that worked. So the airplane mode works very well, whether it's from the front or the back. it tracked well, and I was satisfied with that. My next thing is I wanted to get some birds in flight. And since I was heading back to Mongolia, that's what we're going to continue with the next portion of the video. Now, one of the great things I discovered is that the Z8 is a really great performer. Now, I've said this in different videos, but you know, the early days, everything seems good to you. Everything is wonderful and great. And the niggles, you probably don't come across until later on, because, you know, it's like that new car mode, that new toy mode. You're playing with it. Everything seems great. And then you may come across some issues like, what's going on here? I'll say this. I didn't have too many of those. And when I come across them, it's usually some setting that I didn't do very well. So I didn't want to make a video right away as soon as something cropped up to say, hey, this isn't working right. So I tried to test out different modes just to make sure that it was working very well. I've seen videos of people doing bird in flight, and it's like, you know, the background is, if it's too bright, the camera's not going to focus on it. So I kept those things in mind when I was shooting. You can see here, this is where the bird snatched it. Now the background was a bit on the bright side, and that was my error not figuring out, you know, setting and where to point it. But the action was taking place right there. So what else you going to do? Capture it. In the later days, I had an opportunity to go out to the countryside. And while I was out there, of course, they're just around, you know, circling, hunting for food. And I was able to get some shots out there as well that turned out to be pretty good. A couple of the birds in the, against a blue background actually were sharp. And I was happy with that because I was, you know, trying to chase this bird down, and I walked pretty much miles, it seemed, trying to follow this one bird, and then lost them, then came back and, you know, trying to set up another one, because usually by the time you notice them, they're kind of coming by low as they try to catch something, and then they go all the way up and then head over if they can't find anything. What I like about the Z8 is that the size of it is pretty much like the old-fashioned DSLRs. It's on the heavier side for sure, it's almost 2 pounds, but you know, the grip is just, it feels really good. That's the best way I can put it. It feels good in the hand. The Z6 was nice and light, Z6 II, same thing. You know, now that you have this, like, they kind of feel like a toy, but we know going mirrorless is supposed to be lighter than your standard DSLR. So this is more like, you know, your regular DSLR as far as the weight is concerned. And I know they did that to help with heat dissipation. And I can tell you this, so far, you know, I've seen some hot card warnings and the camera got hot as well, but you know, I haven't had it shut down. I don't record for that long. Typically I'm recording 4K 24, 4K 30, you know, maybe 20-25 minutes of talking head video like this, and then chop it up and then edit. So the few times I did see that, but all in all, you know, I have to say I like it. The ports, I wish they did things a little bit different, you know, moving like the HDMI to the front, like I have on my FX30. Another thing that I would have liked to see them do is basically separate out the audio section into its own little cover. Again, this is something that Sony does, but one of the things that Sony also does on the A7R5 is that the microphone slot has its own little cover by itself. So you have to plug an external microphone in there. You don't have to open up everything, you can just do that. But Sony also has their multi-interface shoe. You can plug a microphone up there and it works fine. I've used the handle from the FX30 in that camera, and my ECM B1M works fine. This is something I like, this section here, how it's not as tall as you'd expect on your normal cameras. It's a little bit flush. It kind of takes me back to the A7R5 and the FX30, where, well, not the A7R5, the FX30, where the controls are kind of like flush on the top. It doesn't have an EVF, but this camera does. But having the controls up there for video, you know, as you hold the camera this way, the controls are sitting up too high, so you can touch them and you can do what you need to do with no issue. So I like that. I wish though it had a screen that could flip forward. You know, this look isn't bad when you want to do vertical photos, but I really wished it would have flipped forward. So, but again, for some people, you know, people say when you talk about utilizing this camera as someone who's shooting from behind, you are the creator and you're not in front of the camera. But today, as we know, a lot of us are sitting in front of the camera and you do solo work. So that means an external monitor to help you out. There's another feature that I've been excited about utilizing this camera, and that's the HDR mode. So I've tested it on the photo and time lapse. And right now, what you're watching is an HDR video or HLG video. So let me show you some of the HDR and HLG footage. Image quality looks really good. It may look maybe a little bright, overly sharp, but this mode basically, when you do it this way, it just comes out really clear. I like this. The video features on the Z8 is fantastic. You know, it goes all the way up to 8.3K. You see me shot at 8.3K 24p, and it's an awesome looking image. I've walked around Bukit Bintang with this camera on the street. The stability is pretty good. You know, that's one of the things that made me give up the A7R5. The A7R5 said that's 8 stops of stabilization. And when you're walking around doing video, it's pretty darn good. The software also aids in making it even better when you run it through Catalyst Browse, as well as the old 24-105 OSS lens that I had. That just stabilizes the footage a whole lot, and you can do even more with it. With the Z8, the only stabilization that can be done with it is through DaVinci Resolve. Nikon hasn't updated their software to add any stabilization to the footage, and I know they patented some software some months back, but we don't know what it's going to be. We've seen logos. I'm hoping that they come out with some new software specifically for video people, and you can, you know, tweak it even more before you put it into your editing software. I know it's another step, but I've been doing it with the Sony cameras and it works out very well. And when you want really smooth footage, you know, that's an excellent thing. 5.5 stops, I think it is. It's 5 or 5.5, and it's Z8. But you know, without a stabilized lens, because I'm utilizing the 24-120, it works fine. I mean, that's the only lens that I have, and using it for video, it has been working flawlessly. I'm happy with how things turned out, and you know, it's a big deal because video is great. You hear me talk about a flip forward screen. Yeah, I would have loved that. But just walking around the street with this camera, you know, I like the stability. I like how the screen look. You can see it on the outside. It's bright enough, because at times with my A7R5 and the FX30, when the screen isn't bright enough, if you put it to the higher setting. This one, I think it goes up to 5 different settings. I think I usually keep it around 3 above normal, and I'm fine for most outdoor use. So I'm here with Jun here in Malaysia. We met the last time I was here. He's a youngster that's been shooting with film cameras. Now he's got a rollie that he's setting up to catch the crosswalk, similar to the one in Shinjuku that is just crisscrosses the road. The light is changed, you can see what's happening here. So what more can I say about this camera? I mean, it's a fantastic unit. It has a lot of great features inside of it for photo and for video. Anybody that's looking to do either, remember, this camera is a baby Z9. The Z9's price was too high for most of us. The Z8, a lot of us had to stretch our budget to get it because it has a lot of the features that the Z9 carries, which makes this an excellent camera. There are some downsides, for sure. You can't record as long as the Z9 because it's a smaller body and it's going to overheat if you go too long. And especially if you try the higher codecs, it will definitely overheat faster. I haven't gone to that level to utilize for that long period of time. I've seen hot card warnings and hot camera warning. So that's that. You know, if Nikon comes up with something else in the future, Z9 style or something with a fan on it, I'd probably pick that up as well. But for now, the FX30 and the Z8 is doing pretty well for me to walk around and take videos. So let me share this with you guys. My Amazon links are now international. If you have an Amazon store in your country and you're looking to buy one of the items that I have in the description area, you click on the link, it'll take you to your local store and you can purchase from there. I wanted to make sure that all my watchers, my subscribers, if you're looking to purchase something and you're in a different country, currently I'm an Amazon affiliate. I don't have any other affiliates yet, but I'm working on that. So you can click on the links, get into your local store and buy what you need. The Z8 is an awesome camera. It has a bit of a learning curve if you're coming from another brand. The autofocus system, while fantastic, is complex. So you have to tweak it a bit towards what kind of work you're doing. As I showed you earlier in the video, and I talked about when I was doing airplane and bird photography, I had to tweak things around to get the right settings. That being said, it doesn't mean that you should avoid this camera. If you like a nice beefy camera with a lot of features, this camera is going to give it to you. As you can see, as far as sports, it's got it. Video, it's got it. Landscape, it's got it. Anything you want to do, it's, again, a baby Z9. And as we know, this Z9 is pretty much the all-in-one professional camera, do everything. In the old days in the professional line, Nikon would have one camera specified for like studio work, another one specified for sports work. So they have basically crammed everything inside the Z9 and you get it in the Z8. What more can you ask for? I'd love to hear from you guys who are considering the camera, or those of you who already bought the camera. What do you think about it? What's been your experience? As I said before, a lot of us have been stretching our budget. I'm sure some of you have. If you're kind of sitting on the fence, well, I think some of you wanted the Z9 as well. So you can probably locate one because the price comes out from time to time. I've seen sales with external battery for around $4,500. I think it's a refurbish, they'll package it with an external battery. So getting an external, so an extra battery. So getting that together, that's a fantastic deal. All right, I'm gonna close out. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. It's been a long time coming, but I wanted to make sure I give you guys good information. And as soon as I tested more features, I keep changing things around. So now that I have all my folders together and I can put the videos together so you guys can see it, I really hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.